Just telling the truth. If you sit at the front of the balcony, there's a lot of low frequency that we deal with, and our guys that are great at that are trying to put that and model that at the right point in the room so that it doesn't sound like you're getting feedback. So there are no perfect rooms, and we work with the guys that we've worked with, and we still partner with them and try to get everything where it needs to be. But the bottom line is it's a tool. It's not watermark. It's who we are. That was the number one thing we wanted. We wanted people to say, I want to be here. We didn't want to go, wow, holy cow, what a great room. It's okay if you say that, but that's not our first blush. So anyway, that's it. And we'll give you a pool. When you get to the phase of the tour where you get to the back booth, they'll give you a pull sheet with all your gear list, consulting groups, and all that kind of monkey business.
The UD show.
So if you,
any given week we're using probably 64 channels or so. So we just have an HD1 underneath so that I can track through virtual sound check and train volunteers during the week. The handy thing about having this is that we also have an SC48 back in the monitor desk and an SC48 up in our broadcast room. That was a choice we made moving into this phase. We had an M7 monitor that's now up in our multi-purpose loft area. And we just felt like, hey, if we teach somebody to use the M7, then they can use the M7. They don't necessarily know how to use this. So we start volunteers on the SC48 so they can kind of get a feel of how it works, how to find things, and start them at monitors. When they feel comfortable at monitors, we'll move them up to broadcast. And then when they feel comfortable at broadcast, we'll start to work them in either on Sundays here, or we have a kind of, the room's about half full on Tuesdays for a young adults thing called The Porch, so we'll get people in for that as well. We run, as far as audio stuff goes, we're using L-Acoustic Kudos and L-Acoustic subs up top, and then underneath we've got some JBL subs, some different up in the ceiling, a lot of it looks like particle board. On top of that particle board, there's some sound treatment, and then some of them are just sound panels. So if you look, some of them change colors slightly, and those are the ones that we just have up there for acoustical treatment. AD came in and was really good with math, I guess. So they knew kind of an idea of where things needed to go underneath the catwalk. So what you can't see up there, we've got 5 rows of catwalk. 7 rows of catwalk that we hang lighting off of, and also have the ability to run. I've got a couple reference mics that are dropping down for the band. So kind of, I think the main goal of what we did was try to find, hey, what do we need? But not just what do we need, like what purpose do we have in getting that? So it's cool to get a new expensive board, but if it doesn't accomplish the purpose of being able to train people along the way, it didn't help us a lot. And then a lot of the lighting and scenic stuff is all Lindsay's build, so I'll let him talk. And then if you guys have questions.
Yeah, I'll talk first, then we have questions you guys can split up, whichever one of us you want to ask. Now, my name's Lindsay. I've been a lighting guy for way more years than I want to admit right now. And I've been here at Watermark about 5 years. When we first moved into our smaller space over there that's being turned into a children's ministry now, up until now. We've been in this space how long? Since November? September? That long? Okay. Real quickly, I'll kind of do the same thing that Blake did as far as go through the basic elements. Our control console is a MA lighting screened MA, which has been around for a while now. There's an MA2 out. It's even more expensive. Really good versatile board. And the same thing that the audio guys did, if you look over in the loft, we have MA lights, smaller version of this same board, so that people that start off over there learning, when they come over here, this board has the same syntax and it works the same way. and it makes an easier path for volunteers to move up into larger and larger productions. With control console, before you even get into the lighting, we have 2 Hypnotizer media servers here in this rack, and those feed the center screen, which we have hidden right now, and the 2 side screens. So this thing can hold literally thousands of images. It's controlled from this console using the same controls you would use on a moving light or something like that. And it's really changed how we, or at least how I light something like what we do here, in that now I start with the video image background and try to find a way for that to fit the mood of the music that we're lighting, or the speaker that happens to be up there, and what his message is. You really try to tie that in to make it emphasize what they're saying, never to take away from what they're trying to say, what the point is. And then once we picked a background image there, then we build the rest of the lighting on top of that. As far as lighting elements, in the catwalk system, I've got probably a couple hundred source 4 ellipsoidals, just basically open white, and that does a complete stage wash. All that center area between the screens is broken up into basically 4 by 4 foot areas. Every one's a separate area, front light and back light. So that's just your basics. On top of that, when the catwalk's over the stage on each side, you might have noticed we've got another 24 ellipsoidals with color changers on them. And what that just lets me do is be able to put a little bit of backlight color or side color on whatever happens to be up there. And I've done the same thing. That basic center area of the stage is just kind of blocked off in areas, and you can, in basically 3 areas, lit from both sides front and both sides back. So you can easily do a lot of things where, it's one color this side, another color this side, the front's a color and the back's a different color. And using the scrollers, it's old technology, but you really get a lot for your money that way. They're not really expensive. And if you take a little bit of care when you choose your color string and you put colors close to each other that you know are going to use together, nobody really ever sees the scrollers change color. In last night's worship service, there was one place where I intentionally let everybody see that, but the rest of the time, nobody ever really sees them change. So it gets the same effect that a moving light of a wash type would give you. And then the last layer, or element, are the moving lights, which are pretty obvious up there. There's 12 Yale 3000s, which we added when we moved into the space, and there's 6 Elation Power Spot 700s that we brought with us from the old space. And everything we had from the old space we brought with us, and we just added to it. And that covers pretty much all the equipment side of it. And so I guess
I forgot. Yeah, we reuse our kudos as well. So if you look, you can see about halfway down, maybe 2/3 of the way down, they change color a little bit. So those are the ones that were in the old phase, and then the other ones that were in the old phase are the side fills, so that we could reuse as much as we could.
And the same with the projectors on the side screens. Those were the IMAG projectors in the old building. We just brought them and repurposed them as well. So we try to make the most of what we had. You ready to break up for questions?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. Anybody with audio guide questions can go over that side, and anybody with lighting questions can come over here, and I'll try to answer everything I can.
I have a question. It really applies to both worlds as far as large churches. What's your guys' philosophy on volunteer run versus staff run, for Sunday morning service? Are you guys fully volunteer?
No, it's a good
or?
mixture. There's some positions where the equipment is so complicated that you really need a staff person. Like I'm here every Sunday. Les and videos here pretty much every Sunday. Blake's here every Sunday. But we also we have volunteers. We have a couple of people that alternate running audio on Sunday mornings. I don't get too much help on video. The camera operators.
Right.
And Les acts as director up there and engineer. Sometimes he'll bring in a volunteer to take one of those 2 positions, either one. It kind of switches off depending on the talents of the person that's helping him.
Right.
And then usually I have a 3rd person up there. We run 5 cameras for this, and basically there's one who's out for repair right now. One's there, 2 here, 3 over there. 4 and 5 are robotic cameras mounted on the walls here, and those are run from the video booth. One guy can run both of those. And that gives us a lot of different angles. And the reason for going to that many cameras is because in addition to what goes on in this room on Sunday morning, we're broadcasting our service on the internet, both the 9 and the 11 a.m. services. And whichever one of those comes out best, we broadcast over and over all week. And that's why the video's got to be a bigger deal than it has been in the past. It's not just IMAX and of course that. Anybody else? Well, actually, that's a good question. And this may be something, if any of you guys want to try this, I probably ran into, is we took our old IMAX projectors, and what we originally did was mounted them sideways, right? We just turned the projector sideways to get that image, and we've cropped it down a little bit, but that was because we wanted to get the most energy. We could have just left it normally, but we wouldn't have gotten much brightness out of it by the time we cropped it down the pit. But we ran into a problem with these projectors that are Christie projectors, and I think anything more than a few years old will see this problem. But when we turn it sideways, the cooling system didn't work properly, and you got a flicker in the bulb. And the first several weeks we were in here, those images were just kind of, you didn't notice unless you stared at them for a minute, but they had flicker visible. And the solution to the problem was to mount the projectors pointing straight down, and then we mounted these mirrors to the bottom to get the image to shoot in that direction. And we looked at straight up, but the cooling didn't work. So that was one of the more interesting things we ran into, trying to repurpose something like that. With newer projectors, I don't think you're going to see that problem. It's just anything more than 3 or 4 years old. You know, I don't. The guys at Clear Brothers found those for us, and they came up with that solution. So they could probably answer that question. And as far as the image size, that really came down to a lot of discussions with the architects early on before this place was built, of what size all of these screens were going to be, and what depth they were going to be, and how they all related to each other. And it got really complicated because the IMAX screens are rear projection, and those projectors are back against that wall on a mezzanine out there. And so it brings in a lot of issues about what you can do with drapes and things like that, because you have that image cone you can't get in front of. And then we have the same problem from out in the house with all the scenic projectors being front projected. So that's another thing we spent a lot of time. And that's why we came up with the idea. We wanted to be able to hide that center screen, and in the old space we just had a drape that parted in the middle, but we couldn't do that here because of the IMAX projection cones. So somebody came up with, a Clear Brothers guy again, came up with the idea of using that Austrian, which raises straight up and down. So sometimes, like today, we can do a halfway, and the reason it's halfway is there's not a lot of ceiling height up above, so that center screen can't go completely up out of the way. So if we want that to happen, we have to drop it in and roll it up and tie it to the back and then flat out. But the Austrian curtain, we can actually, it's DMX controllable, so I can run that thing from right here. And when we move the screen to different heights and stuff, the media server will allow us to crop in. And I've actually done some things where the screen moves out, and I managed to keep the image on the screen as it goes up and down. So there's one of, I think Gary's goals was to have multiple, say 3, 4, 5 different scenic looks we could get just by moving elements around the stage. And one of the things that occurred to me after being here a couple of years is, and it's something that's true for all of us, is you have, instead of like a Broadway show or a touring production where there's a different audience seeing the same show every day, this is the reverse. You've got the same congregation seeing a different service every Sunday. And that's one of the things I try really hard to do is to make it look different every Sunday. So though we have a lot of equipment, we don't use everything every time. We'll probably be sparing with our use. That's where the media server goes a long way, because you can have lots of images in there. That's why of all the moving lights out there, I picked the VL3000 spots, because they hold more gobos than any other fixture out. So that it holds 14 different patterns. So I might never use more than 2 a week, and try to space those out and try to really make it feel new every week. When people come in, give them, make them look forward to being here. Any other questions?
What's your process for actually? Are you the one who programs the lights every week?
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
What's
that's a
your
good
weekly
question.
process?
Okay, well, basically, we use Planning Center, and it's a real important tool for us. And sometime during the week, usually by Thursday morning, our whole set list is in there, everything that we're going to do, the whole day is planned out, and you can go in and download those songs that the worship band's going to play. And then I'll come in Thursday during the day and sit down with that music and take the background images and kind of lay in the basics. And then on Thursday evening, the band comes in and they'll actually rehearse the music. And while they're rehearsing, then that's when I do the next layer of programming in what I'm going to do with the moving lights and what kind of looks good yet, and picking up the specials and focusing on everybody. And then on Sunday mornings we get here about 6:30 or 7, and we do another final run through when we figure out do the final touches on it. Usually I'll write up some notes about who's singing and what songs. Again, there's often video guides, so the camera operators have a little bit of warning where to be pointing at which times. And that's basically it. Is just as I'm doing my stuff early in the day on Thursday, same way that the bands are all learning that music before they show up for rehearsal. We're all kind of do our beginning part, and then we show up Thursday and tie it all together. And it's really not till Sunday morning that we work out the most important part to me, which is those transitions between the speaker and the worship band, and between the songs and the worship set. Because the transitions are the one place where it's most easiest to do something, make some kind of mistake, or do something rough that pulls everybody out of the moment. And that's one of the most important goals is we want to add to what's going on, but we don't ever want to take away from it. And the biggest way to do that is to make some kind of obvious mistake that makes people think about the technical side and not why they're here. Check their lips. Good question. Those are remote controlled. Actually, they're hung directly underneath one of the catwalks, and they're controlled up above them from the
So you're not
catwalk.
ever moving them during the service to match screen movement?
No, we don't do that. That's all done with software in the console and in the hypnotizer when we want to do that. And those lifts are simply there to be able to bring the projectors in and change bulbs without having to bring in a lift and all that stuff. And intentionally, originally they were intended to be like the center ones, always all the way up. But because we were using these projectors and we ran into that problem that we had, we weren't able to find a mirror that could actually change its angle. So the mirror on the bottom of those projectors is just a straight 90-degree mirror. And so we ended up having to bring those down low that we wanted to just get our image on the wall like we wanted. But we just had to compromise between that and not blocking any sight lines from the balcony. But those are purely there for maintenance reasons.
It was too far to like go from the back walls and things like that.
Get those from here.
As far as doing maintenance on the projectors, I mean, in their old space, they were fixed and sealed. And we have a 40-foot genie lift, which we have to drag out and operate on a slope. And it's something that we never enjoyed doing. It was never really safe. And those units that move the projectors up and down, they're not really that expensive. And we don't, they're not used that often, just really at maintenance times. Anybody else? Yeah, those we started out with one. Those are 20K projectors. We started out with one, and it wasn't very bright. And when we talked about it, and the easiest solution was just these two projectors, and it is complete overlay. They're not splitting the screen, which that's what we did in our old space, is we had two side by side, and they split the screen. This time we just did an overlay. And if you lose one, you still have a whole image. That's our thinking.
So they're each 20K?
Yeah. And the ones on the side are 12K.
What are the IMAX screens?
I don't honestly know. They're at least 20. And the IMAX screens are actually HD projectors. The scenic screens are not HD. And we think about that a lot. We were thinking about this yesterday when we were putting together last night's meeting was, certain media you want to put on that HD projection, and other media is not as important. So notice they put all the advertisements and things like that, and that's where we do all our IMAG are on those two screens. That is a decision we made.
Screen there.
Feel free to ask any questions, but the stage space is pretty simple. Like I said before, all the walls are covered with duct liner and board slat. There's a the most important thing for us when we began design was that we had firepower for visuals that did not demand manpower, because I never have enough staff to provide all that. You know, we're building sets. We do build sets. We have a scenic shop. We do that probably 4 or 5 times a year, but we built these huge gyp walls on the sides of the IMAX screens, and then we have a 50-foot screen that's behind this that you probably have seen at one point or the other during the Echo, and that screen is, and so we put that through a media server and attach it to the light board as a cue, so we have a visual that's connected all the way across. And with our graphics team and with Lindsay on the light board, we'll build those cues so that they all work. We primarily use those as art that's more aesthetic than it is literal during the worship set. And he'll size all that, get it up on the screens. And so that gives us a more dynamic palette for beauty and for visuals, that kind of thing. And of course, those are all front projected. And then we have rear projection on the IMAG screens. There's a tech mezzanine, which is just a big bridge. You'll see it as you go underneath this curtain in a little bit, where the large rear projection projectors sit. And also that mezzanine is used as a production value as well, where you can put music and different things there. I've not used it yet because I haven't found an organic way to use it where it didn't feel like we were fixing to do the second act of Cats, so it's a little much. You can see when the barn doors open, that you go straight into the wood shop. That garage door there to the left of that, just a green room, and then second floor is all video production, and third floor is all storage, just for Christmas trees, lighting stuff, all that monkey business that you just have in your plant. So. Stage right, you've got your monitor desk. And in the stage left, you have some winch systems. Almost every lighting grid. It's not a true fly system. It's just so expensive to fly anything double height of your ceiling rafter. But third floor, you do have catwalk access all the way to the back of the building, and you have winches so that your lighting trusses can come in. This curtain here is Austrian, and it has cables that will pull it up like this, like fingers, so you can cover that and make the stage appear to be smaller, more intimate when you have smaller stuff on stage. And those are the basic stagecraft and stage elements. Anybody got any questions about anything?
What's the fabric you're using for your center screen?
That is a great question, because we were going to take it down today, and my lighting designer reminded me, I don't think we're supposed to be taking it down without a lot of care, because it's not cotton, and so it does fold, but it just takes longer to find its life again. I don't know the technical name of the fabric, but I remember we spent a lot of time because we wanted it to get closer to the IMAG and to the architectural screens looks. In our old space, it was a cotton, typical stage scrim, and you had a really large drop-off. No matter what projector you put, it just wouldn't reflect light enough, and so we wanted something that was more reflective. But it should be on that
On this
it may be on there.
Okay. Thank you.
Somebody else got a question?
What's the minimums on the IMAX projectors?
I thought they said 20K.
16. I had to think for a second.
16?
I believe the
16 or
fronts
60?
are 12. Yeah, we went round and round on that, trying to move stuff over, And now we've repositioned some of those projectors in other parts of the building because it just didn't work. These projectors we ended up turning on when they were in their traditional position. There was something about the fan. There was always a jitter in them. We couldn't get rid of it. And so we had the guys from Barco come out, and we had to turn them on the side and using a mirror to get it to work, and it took the jitter out of the projector. So they said that they were getting complaints from others as well, and so it just kind of worked out. So
How many seats you guys have in here?
this is 3,500 seats. The old building was 22.
Is this a work stage or what is the?
This is a dance surface that we found, and it's called Tectum. It's just treated. It comes in any color you want it in, but you can nail into it. We don't do a lot of dance. We do some, but it's called Tectum. And it's just a great smooth surface. You can paint it as many times. It's a great. It seals well when it has problems. The only thing I don't like about it is to install it correctly. They leave a gap in it, and from time to time you have to come out with vacuum cleaners because you just get so much garbage. It's time to take the gap. You have to come up with the old vacuum shop bags and clean it out about once a year.
What's under it? Is there?
There's 2x. It's concrete, and there's 2xs that are like sleepers, and it keeps it to being soft, so it has a little give to it. Amazing what's important to different people. I mean, because you got, well, I got to solve that. The old stage with the whole week thing, it was temporary.
And floor boxes that we use.
Try to roll a car out on it one time. Okay, it's obviously not meant to do that. So maybe let's back the car out before this gets any worse. We're going to replace a couple of panels. This will take a car if we can find out.
As far as like stage design and stuff, like props and whatnot, do you guys staff that position, or is that something like volunteers do, or what's that look like?
The question is, how do we do with set and props and all that kind of stuff? Is that a staff position? I had a technical director who
Ryan.
was really Ryan was great at that. He and I partnered together. I have a stage theater background, so I would design conceptually and he would detail draw. He moved into our single parent ministry, which is great for our church, but sucks for me.
Yeah.
So I'm in the process of hiring a TD right now. He may or may not have that gift set. I do have volunteers who have stagecraft. Like I have one guy that he's a great painter. He knows how to paint for the stage. But I'm just like you guys. I'm trying to figure out how to do that and lean on. I don't know anybody that can afford a stage designer. I would love to have that'd be for sure. Then we couldn't afford to build it probably. He designs. So you had those big projects once or twice a year. You pull in whoever, but we're in the process of trying to build a band riser system that lives here most of the time. That we can chain motor out the back. But I mean, it's nothing wrong with this, but I just would like to create more of an environment for worship. But I just haven't found. I'll probably will find a guy that can actually design and get him to do that one thing because it's going to have such a long shelf life. Right.
What do you do for a baptism?
That's a great question. We used to go to the park, and it was just awesome. And then we became too big for the park, and the neighbors began to complain, and we were losing our witness. So they very nicely, kindly asked us not to come back, and so we said we get it. And we baptize in the pond out here. We do one big baptism a year, and then we do a lot of small baptism. There's a grate in the middle that pulls back, that makes it deep enough to meet city code. That can only be a certain depth, or it's a swimming pool, then you got to put a fence around it, which sort of loses the aesthetic. So anyway, it's the same all over, isn't it? So anyway, we do probably 3 or 4 times a month. Community groups will come up here, and we have like a little kit for them of how you do a baptism and partner with them. And we always want there to be the body there, not just 2 friends, So community groups come together and celebrate that. So, but the big baptism's fun. there's like hundreds of people and hundreds of baptisms. That's that's just so encouraging. But it's getting where it's not practical either. We had the hotel complaints, quite frankly, when we have baptisms. So. Anybody else got a question? All right. Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to send you. Yep.
Yeah, we go up the stairs, but apparently this is not the stairs. I bet Sean would like all those tools over there. Full wood shop. I've seen your mom's church was like that. Oh yeah, it was like TV studio. It was huge. But they live streamed multiple campuses online.
The biggest thing we had to figure out was, if you don't stop adjusting the lights, then I can't stop adjusting the cameras. So once we got to where we were, he would just put it up and leave it, then I could get where we wanted to be. So, yeah. Because if you're adjusting the cameras, then he's like, oh, I don't think I like that, and he pulls it down. I just adjust it. So, yeah. But we actually have a really great.
You may have already mentioned this, but so when you have someone calling switch, are they calling when you're coming to graphics and all that kind of stuff too?
Somewhat. We're not super. I don't know how to say it. We're not real bam, 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 bam. He's mostly calling cameras, and then or that person is, and then you might say, hey, okay, I'm gonna go to graphics here or whatever. I'm gonna key that in or whatever. Because usually those two people are sitting right next to each other as far as keying and that kind of thing, or so. And a lot of times the biggest conversation about graphics is, hey, will you give me your background, or hey, don't give me anything right now because you're keyed live still. Let me unkey, that kind of thing. And so, but we're and we've gotten kind of into our routine a little bit. We kind of know what's coming next a little bit, and so that's good or bad, but it makes it easier on us. There's not as much communication that's happening because we already kind of know, and especially by the time you get to the third service, it's like we're all just asleep. Yeah.
I saw you have a graphics computer at front of house.
Yeah.
What's the advantage of having it out there instead of back
Just
here?
Being in the room with the people. We could run lyrics up here, and I've thought about it, and I like them being in there. That's better for rehearsal for one thing. And then it's like, well, if I've had them in there rehearsing the whole time with the band in the room, being next to the lighting operator, which is nice because they're needing to coordinate some of their changes and stuff like that. And then I'm gonna pull that guy out of there and bring him up here, set him next to me, completely out of the context of what he's doing. It just doesn't make sense to me. So we just leave that person down there, and it's worked.
The pastor needs somewhere to shoot their laser eyes when the wrong scripture goes up.
Right.
It's always the slide tech.
Yeah.
So you gotta have them inside.
Yeah, that way they're not looking at me when something goes wrong. They look at that.
What's the difference between?
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, I explained that earlier. We've had groups. So this switcher here is a 1.5 ME switcher that's doing two things. It's doing the IMAX screens, and then it's doing all the stream, the lobby TVs, and the recorded stuff. And those are on two different feeds, and it can be switched independently of each other. This guy is a Barco switcher. That's a presentation switcher that is basically doing. It's routing everything to all the screens, and so I can if that makes sense. It's serving as a router so that I can take whatever signal I want. And so, you know, if for whatever reason they're like, hey, we've got to have ESPN on or the news or whatever, and we want it on the big center screen, I can come in here and punch that up. And I don't have to route it through anything else. It's getting those sources. And so this guy is kind of like, it's the gatekeeper. And so it's saying, so the lighting guy's dialing up what's going on the center screen and the side screens up until the point that we don't want him, we want something to put something else up there. Like we want to play a movie on that big center screen or whatever, you know. We're not going to run that through our media server. We're just going to put it on, run it out of ProPresenter and punch it up in here and put it on the center screen, you know, that kind of thing. If the band plays something that's a click track and we've got this video that we've shot that is on the center screen and the two side screens and all that stuff, we're going to run that out of a computer up here, and then and I'll grab those screens from up here, and then when it's over, give them back to lighting, you know, that kind of thing. So that's kind of how all that's working right now. So, and the great thing about this guy, you could just do that with some more simple routing and stuff like that, but then you're going to be buying a bunch of those guys. And what this guy does is it gives us redundancy in case I ever walk in and somebody spilled a cup of coffee on that thing and it's smoking. I can just switch over to this guy and I can do the IMAX. It's just like the audience would have no idea. So that's why we have that guy.
And it's seamless to go if somebody spilled coffee on it, burn. The switch is seamless?
It probably wouldn't be seamless, but there's a cut. But it could be if I know it. If they told me they're going to spill coffee on it, then it would be seamless. Okay, I wouldn't be able to, you know. So it would take them, you know. But I can do it, you know. So
Everything's routed through the barcode before it goes, like all 5.
Yeah. And then I can go into patch bay and interrupt that. So that's one of the things, I guess, just in terms of philosophy and everything, you can't ever have enough stuff in your patch bay, and it's nice to have all your sources go in more than one place, because if that one place dies, you're over with, you know? And so, if you can, it's great to have, and you don't need another switcher, but some way to get a source where you want to put it in some other way is great. And when we did the first building, we knew we were going to move. I mean, it was a temporary kind of a thing. We knew that eventually we were going to do something else. And so we didn't include as much patch bay and stuff like that, but our hands were tied. We'd be like, hey, can we do, no, we can't. You know, or can we, you know, whereas now it's like, hey, can we put something different on the lobby TVs than what's on them? Yeah, we could do that. You know, just like go in the patch bay, you know, that kind of thing. So that's why you see my little MacBook Air running all their slides for the TV screens out there. Normally the TV screens are getting whatever's coming out of the second, the full ME on that switcher. Right now they're like, hey, we just want those slides running all the time.
So you don't run the TVs off of like a Matrix or something?
It's an MATV system, so they're just grabbing a channel. So instead of going through, and we've got a system where we can go through and dial up on the web and change the channel and all that stuff on the TVs, but instead of that, it's just plug into there, get that going to that channel, and I'm done. I've got my slides running in there. That's all I need to do. So having a lot of patch bay is really great. So just to be able to move sources around all that stuff.
And y'all pump it out any digital signage or just
not true digital signage? I mean, not really.
Yeah.
We can, you know, we can put something up on ProPresenter and rotate slides through that kind of thing. But we don't. There's really nobody that's really like, hey, I need to have all these, you know, ministry things and this RSS feed and all this other stuff. We just don't have a real need for that. So every once in a while we'll have something that's like, usually it comes in when the Rangers are in the playoffs or the Mavs are in the playoffs, or you know, if the Cowboys will ever get to the playoffs, you know, then they'll want to put that up in the lobbies after their event. You know, like we're having some deal Friday night, and they're like, hey, can we get the Olympics on all those TVs just while we're here? Yeah, we could do that. But true digital signage, like you see at Wendy's, no. Wendy's has really great digital signage.
They actually
it's impressive.
do. They actually do. Yeah.
But we're not.
Somebody was paying attention.
Not as cool as Wendy's. So,
No Pro Video Player?
No, I saw a question about that on Twitter, and no, we're not against Pro Video Player, but we already have something else that's serving that function. And when we went with the Hypnotizer media servers, you may have never heard of that, but they're just they're computers that play video, much like Pro Video Player.
Okay.
But they work really well with lighting and DMX.
Is that like a Pandora's box or a Spider?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, yeah. Or like the high end had a box that was like, I can't remember what it was called. But yes, and so so when we were first doing this and we bought our hypnotizers, Pro Video Player didn't talk to DMX, didn't see it, and so you couldn't connect it. So that's why we went that route. Now Pro Video Player does do DMX, and so that's a great solution for if you want to do that. And it's nice because you can slave so many things to it, and you know, boom, it all went at the same time. You know, that kind of thing.
What scope system do you use? I just walked in.
But what system?
Yeah, what scope system do you use to
Oh,
monitor
it's
your
leader.
source?
It's just this little box here, leader, and I can change that if I want to. And then I've got my controls for the CCUs for the camera there, shading and all that.
On your
Is that?
PT,
Sorry. Go ahead.
No.
what are you using on your PTZ controllers?
This guy here, Telemetrics, is controlling our main two, and then I've got this guy. This is leftover from the old room, and so it's just an SD. It's like that was my window before, you know, that I could just control around and stuff like that. But when we got these guys, I don't really need this anymore, and so I just use it for those guys in the broadcast suite to be able to see in there. But so Telemetrics, it's okay. I wouldn't like get behind it and go, hey, you should go out and buy Telemetrics, but it works.
Conventional body?
Yeah, your Sony boxes
You're just using
and with a Fuji lens or Fujinon lens, and so so basically they take that camera, slap it on there, and interface with it, and you can do a lot with it. You can it's really almost like having another CCU there, but a lot of times it just does it in a way that drives me, it's infuriating. And so really, I wish it didn't have all that. I'd rather just have the shade station and this. But for people that are 100 feet away from the shading station, it makes a lot of sense. You know? So.